Surf today. Get up and brush off the dew on that. Surf today. Surf today. Surf today. Cut it and roll that dew on that. Surf today. Surf today. Surf today. Set up, they about to come through on that. Surf today. Surf today. Surf today. Get up. Surf today. Get up. Surf today. Let's get out the way. Here comes first play. Let's maintain that surf today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Morning, Alex.
How are you?
Good.
Appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, a little. It's already a little hectic this morning, but that's good. I got everything good, and
That's good. We like it when our guests are a little frazzled.
yeah.
Going
Well,
through the day.
it's been 10 o'clock shotgun on a Monday morning after a
Oh.
weekend. And,
Oh.
you get a laundry list of stuff you come into. You're like, what is all this? So no big deal. It's all in a day's
as
work.
long as they notified you about this 10 a.m. shotgun,
Yeah.
in advance.
Those are the ones that are always fun. You kind of scrambling around, looking like you don't know what you're doing, but not knowing what's going on is one thing. So.
Don't worry, they'll call you at 9:30 and say, "Hey, we have that hole in one set up on that one hole, right?" Wait, what?
You know what? I usually get can we go early? And I'm like, if you wanted to go early, you should have told me 9:30. And I'm like, tell me 9:30, then we'll be ready at 9:30.
Yeah.
So, but
Oh, it's fun. Well, we'll go ahead. We'll get started here, Alex. We like to start these episodes off by giving you an opportunity. Just introduce yourself.
okay. Name's Alex Tolbert. I'm a golf course superintendent at Orangeburg Country Club in Orangeburg, South Carolina. It's about halfway in between Charleston and Columbia on I-26. That's kind of how everybody knows exactly where Orangeburg is because they're going to Charleston. So, hey, yeah, I pass by you guys all the time. Like, well, we're 10, 15 minutes in town there. So, yeah, I've been here my start of my 15th year at the end. I started on Halloween Day 14 years ago. So, almost here 15 years, started my 15th year. Grew up in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Played ball growing up. I was never a golfer. I played football and I played. I was on the basketball team. I wasn't a great basketball player, but I had my role. And then I was a baseball player. Ended up playing in college and then played a couple years in the minors after that, and just kind of found this profession after I got done playing, just looking for something. And I always feel lucky that I found it. So
Nice.
I'm married, got 2 kids. I got a 22-year-old just graduated college, and I've got a 14-year-old. She is in 8th grade. So my son is 22.
Nice.
Busy.
And he's a football player too, right? Was he?
Yeah, he did. He finished up. He played at North Greenville, Division II school up in Greenville County. He just finished up, graduated in August, and actually took a job at Wofford College as assistant director of football operations. So all the things that, as a football player, these things just kind of practice gets set up and, the locker room set up and all the equipment and stuff. I told him, all that stuff just miraculously got done. I said, you're the guy that has to do that now. So he seems to like it. I mean, I guess he was home Friday and Saturday, his first 2 days off since the beginning of the season because they were off this weekend. So he seemed to like it. So, or he seems to like it. I'm surprised. He complains about how much he's working, and I told him, I said, "Welcome to the real world, son." So
Yeah.
Sounds an awful lot like a superintendent. The golf course just doesn't magically show up.
Right.
It's got to be prepped, man.
Yeah, you're the guy behind the scenes, and that's the way it is. And that's and you never want to be the guy in front of the scenes because if you're the guy in the front of the scenes, that means the job's not getting done. You always want to be the guy behind.
That's very true. So, Alex, you played a little professional baseball for a few years there and then found yourself into the turf industry. So, take us through that transition, kind of what happened or some of the people that pushed you into the industry.
Well, got done. It was one of those things kind of. I went to spring training in '98, had a really good spring training, and thought, I'm on my way. This is what I'm going to do. And then just, I'm gonna be honest with you, I stopped hitting. I couldn't do anything, and it was one of those situations where the manager brings you in the office and says, the organization's decided to make a change, and you're the change. So it was a reality check that I had. Like, had no idea what I was going to do. I played a little bit of golf, but like I said, I was a baseball player. And, I didn't really. I took care of the baseball fields or whatever. Did my part as a team, but I never thought about. I never knew this was something that we could do, or this was a true profession. Had a buddy call. He was at the time he was the assistant superintendent at the Cliffs Valley, which is the Cliffs second course. And he said, "Hey man, come down and work for me." And I said, "I don't know anything about that." And he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "I'll teach you all you need to know, and then all the free golf you want." And I was hooked. I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And it took me about 6 months to figure out, like, okay, this is exactly what I wanted to do. So I talked to his boss, which is the superintendent at the time, and then we had a director at the time. I talked to him and I said, "Okay, how do I need to do this? What do I need to do?" And he said, "Well, you got to learn one of two sides. Since you didn't go to school, you need to spray, or you need to learn irrigation. Which one do you want to do?" So I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, "Well, I think I'd rather spray. I'd rather fertilize. I'd rather spray. I'd rather do that stuff." So that's kind of what I went into. And once I started doing that, and they helped me along. I went to like a school to get my pesticide license, and I actually took a class at a local community college for a horticulture class, and figured out, this is what I really need to do. And the opportunity came up. My wife is originally from Charlotte, and when we got married, we moved to Taylor's, which is just outside of Greenville. And I thought about it, and we decided to kind of move back to Greenville, or move back to Charlotte, so I could go to night school, because there was a Central Piedmont was starting a turf program, so I could work full time and go to night class. It took me about 4 years to get a 2-year degree, and that's with a lot of stuff transferring in for my 4-year degree. So, but that was only taking 1 to 2 night classes a semester, so it took a little while. But I'm glad I did it.
Talk about the similarities between sports and being a part of a sports team and being a part of a maintenance crew.
Well, that, to me, that's the part that makes it, for now to me, it's so enjoyable. I consider myself the coach, the head coach. I'm the one who, I try to rally around the players and get them going, and get them, teaching them how to do things, and, critiquing what we're doing to kind of make everything better. But to me, the entire thing is a competition. Like, whether we like it or not, we're always competing. We're competing against ourselves. We're competing against the course down the street. We're competing against Mother Nature, which we're all owing forever against Mother Nature. But it's still a challenge. It's still something that you have to look forward to, or you have to kind of embrace. You got to embrace the challenge to be successful. So yeah, the whole idea behind it is, me being, the team manager, or the, a head coach, or whatever you want to do, and then your assistants, or your your coordinators, or whatever, and just everybody taking an active role in making sure the job gets done.
Beautiful. So, talk to us a little bit about your course. Anything that's unique there? Anything you guys do as a team on the course that's a little bit different? And just talk about your crew and your course.
So Orangeburg has been since 1921. We've actually been on this site since 61. There was a spot in town that the two brothers owned the land. They wanted this land, they wanted that land. There was a land swap. So like I said, the country club's been around for over 100 years, but on this site just for 50. So or over 50. But original Alice Maples design. We went through a large scale renovation in '09, just before I got here. I guess the one thing that makes Orangeburg unique, or unique in any way, is we're the first course east of the Mississippi to have champion ultra dwarf. That was something that my predecessor had seen and believed in and wanted to have. So they went from the old 328 back in '97, and they converted them to champion. And then when we redid them in '09, or when they redid them in '09, went back with champion again. So that's kind of the most unique thing of the golf course, is the fact that we've had champion for so long.
Talk about the challenges of, the environment that you guys are in there. I'm assuming you guys get a little humidity and all those fun factors, huh?
Yeah, well, people always ask me about, living and working in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I tell them, I said, well, there's a reason why they grow, thousands of acres of Bermuda grass sod in Orangeburg County. Is because it is a great environment to grow Bermuda. We definitely go through our stretches. This year was, it's a challenging one. It kind of started off kind of a little bit, I wouldn't say slow, but just, mild. And then all of a sudden the heat hit and it was dry. And then the next thing, you turn around and then it's, and then it doesn't rain. Then all of a sudden it starts raining and it doesn't stop raining. That was the month of August. And then now we're going through a stretch where we're in our normal fall pattern, which normal fall pattern around here is we don't get rain unless there's a hurricane involved. And that used to be the old thing, is as soon as I drop seed, because we used to overseed, as soon as I put seed on the ground, it wouldn't rain unless a hurricane was here. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking to see, if there's anything coming today because of the hurricane that's on the coast, or the tropical storm that's on the coast. We should get some rain from it, but it's kind of, normal for us now. So bad to say.
Talk about some of those mental struggles of that constant battle with Mother Nature and the ups and downs, and just how you kind of handle all of the unknown of this job.
Well, like I said earlier, and I think that's, part of it, what makes it, for me, that's what makes it, and how much I enjoy it is the constant challenge. I mean, it is whether it's, weather challenge, or whether it's golfer challenge, member challenge, owner challenge, crew challenge, whatever it is, the challenge of actually doing the job is what makes the job exciting, interesting, keeps me on my toes. One time in my former life, when I was playing a little bit of ball during, college or whatever, I did have a summer job actually while I was playing, and that was in a factory, and I had to do the same job repetitive every single, for 8 hours a day. I figured out after a day that was not in my, not in my DNA. Couldn't do it. If I start doing the same thing over and over again, pretty repetitive, I get very bored. So there is nothing about this job that's repetitive. Some days you wish you could, mimic the same thing over and over again, but you just can't. But yeah, to me, like I said, I think it's the challenge. That's what makes this job great. I mean, it's, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody enjoys that. Not everybody enjoys the chaos, or the calm before the storm, or, whatever, getting in the weeds, or whatever phrase you want to use. Not everybody enjoys that, but to me, that's what makes this job what it is and how great it is.
So Alex, just wondering what sustainability looks like at your golf course.
Well, for us, it's just doing, everything that we can do, as far as, whether it's, water or chemical use, or, whatever it is, it's just whatever that we can do to kind of make our product better. And I'm always looking for something, that's the one thing that we always do, or I'm afforded to do, is going into, state events, local events, regional events, national events, just to make sure I'm staying up on, new technology. We don't really have a lot, I would say, but we do a couple things. We use, as far as water is concerned, we have moisture meters and all that. And we have, I have 2 GPS sprayers, which helps us out. Just honestly, to me, it's just trying to do our part, making sure I'm staying up on what's going on out there in any way that I can make us better, or the golf course better, and also it being, a good steward of what I'm doing.
So you mentioned that you kind of latched on to spraying first,
Yeah.
Early on in your career. How have you seen the application part of this business change just in your, 20 plus years being on this job?
Yeah, I guess the one thing is, the products, the products that we have seem to be getting better and better. And I guess, the way that it becomes because the use rates become smaller and smaller. Like some of the stuff that we're using is, I can never imagine, putting in, 10, 12 ounces something in a 200 or 300 gallon sprayer and it actually being, effective. Like that is just blows my mind of where we are. And, because of where, like I said, where we came from. I've been doing it since, 1999. And this is something that I can remember spraying stuff, reading the label through and through and, all the PPE that you had to have. And there was a re-entry time on, certain products. And I would be hard pressed to find a product now that actually has re-entry time in golf. I don't think there is one. I think they've taken them all away from us. All the stuff that we've done, like I said, the GPS sprayer for us, one of my assistant Jason, he's kind of latched onto that. That's kind of his thing. So when the GPS, when it starts doing its craziness, I don't have anything to do with it. Like this, hey, you handle it because this is above my pay grade. So
Call your IT department, huh?
yeah, I said he's a gamer, like he does all this stuff. So like, he's got it, like it comes on a joystick, like it's crazy all the stuff that we got to do. I've got an old 200-gallon Toro sits in the corner that if I need to spray something, it gets pulled out. So, but yeah, that's all the technology and it just like I said, the efficacy of products. It's amazing, where we are now.
So with all the innovation and things changing and obviously more light being put on what the superintendent does and what the golf course maintenance crew does, what do you wish golfers or members better understood about your job or the golf course?
It's going to sound crazy, but I still have people come to me after a large event, a rain event or whatever it is. And they're like, I really don't realize, how much weather affects you guys. And it always blows my mind. It's like, are you serious? Like, it's something we can't control, and it dictates. I don't know what percentage it is, but it's well over half of what we have going on is weather. And there's just and and the things that we deal with on the golf course. We're dealing with a living, breathing, a growing thing that it has ups and downs. Like there is no doubt about it. Everybody will attest. You have good days and you have bad days. You have good days where you are absolutely proud of the product you put out. And then there are days where you're just like, we're just not there. Like, whatever the case may be, whether it's, something that you've done or whether it's weather or whether it's just, the old adage of, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. You're doing something that for the future and not for today. The one thing that they have a hard time grasping is, all they care about is today. And today it was written, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago for me. Today is what it is. I'm worried about tomorrow. I'm worried about next week. I'm worried about next month, next season. So me looking as far forward as we do, and they only worry about, well, my round of golf was this because of this. And like, you're worried about today. And I'm not worried about today because today's written a long time ago. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me is for them to understand that, we try to do everything we can do to make sure your round of golf is the way it's supposed to be, but sometimes the things are out of our control.
I'd love to hear you kind of expand upon that and kind of a two-part question here. Number one, how do you plan for your year? Do you look at like one of your biggest events and then plan out from that? And then also you talked about, well, I guess you didn't really talk about, but do you do any kind of member education to help give them some information, some knowledge on some of the things that you're dealing with?
Well, the way we plan our year is we kind of go season by season. Like we'll meet as a staff, me and my two assistants will talk about at the end of every year of where we were or where we are and where we came from throughout the year and what we wanted to change or what we want to make better or whatever the case may be. Like this year, the biggest thing for us was the loss of oxidized or Ronstar. We can only use it on 30%. So our weed program for this year was not what it should have been. And we know that. So going into next year, we are going to look at different options. So I plan, the way we look at stuff, I don't necessarily plan off of an event. we just do it, kind of season by season or month by month. I've worked for guys in the past, and the one thing that I remember hearing this a long time ago. That the greatest compliment that you can give a superintendent is you show up to his golf course and somebody says, "Well, man, you could throw the ropes up tomorrow and have an event." So I've always taken that as, hey, we don't ramp up and we don't ramp down for anything. We just have a standard, and that's the standard is the standard. As far as educating the members, I write a small, newsletter article every month, and it kind of tells, during the season or during the growing season or beginning of the season, it reminds them, say, hey, this is the time of year to, put out your pre-emergent because that's what we're doing, or whatever the case may be. But and just being, honestly, just being out there. Being able to talk to them, anytime we do have an event, I feel like I'm wasting time, but it's where I need to be. I'm standing on the driving range. I'm at the putting green for, the last hour before the event goes off, just to make sure, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter. I'm here, just talking to people. So if there's any questions, and the hardest part to be up there and being around, I make sure I walk through the clubhouse during, busy times, and go through the bar when, lunchtime to talk to people and stuff. The hardest time to go through there is when the golf course is, not up to standard or not what you think it should be, but that's the time you should be most visible. When it's perfect, that's the one you should kind of stand back and not do anything. But, how often is that? Not very often, but, when it's not where it needs to be, that's when you need to be the most visible, because you need, they need to understand that, you're willing to talk about, your challenges and what's going on.
Yeah, I love that. And if you could just kind of go deeper, how beneficial is it to have that FaceTime with the members when things are bad, to, essentially extinguish the rumor mill?
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. It's like, I told them, you guys, and we are a country club, but I do have a single owner. And that's the way it's always been here. But I've told them, I said, you guys will never be harder on me than I am myself. If you think it's wrong or you think it's bad or whatever the case may be, if there's a disagreement of what's going on, yeah, we can talk about it and I can tell you what's up. But, there is a reason, or there is something going on, or we're trying to make something better. Working for the single owner in the past, he always accused me of, well, that just sounds like an excuse to me. And I'm like, well, it's not an excuse. It's just the reason. And let me explain why. So it got to the point where we would talk about it. And luckily for me, over the period of time working for him, it was, I'd start the explanation of what we're doing or what we're seeing or this or that. And I'd probably get 2 or 3 sentences in, and he looked at me and said, I don't care. You take care of it. I know you're going to. And that's, it makes you feel good that somebody believes in you that way, but you still have to have that, it all starts with the communication. And it started with, I have to make sure that I'm communicating everything, whether, and it could be the smallest little thing. Well, we had a hydraulic leak over here, or I've got these weeds over here, or whatever it is, but you have to be able to tell them that, and expand upon it if they ask questions, and the questions here that I get from members, more than, I wouldn't say questions, it's just, they ask. The one thing that we're kind of known for, and that was our owner, he always wanted fast greens. He wanted extremely fast greens. And, that's something that if I go through a period where, it's just, they're not that fast, that's the question. What's going on with the greens? What's going on with the greens? If they're normal, if they're fast and they're rolling like they're supposed to, I usually don't get anything. But when they're not fast, it's like, back, I guess it was earlier this year, it was in February, we had Bermuda. Like I said, we had Champion Bermuda, and I raised the height up in the wintertime to protect it. And, so we get to February and it's, 78, 80 degrees, and we're actually mowing, and I'm mowing the greens at, like, I think we were at 145, which is extremely high for us, but that's what our wintertime height is, because we're just kind of cleaning them up, mowing them maybe once a week or whatever. So you're not really mowing grass, you're just kind of smoothing them out. But you go out there and you look at the bucket, it's in February and you're mowing grass at 145. And I'm like, me, these things are probably rolling in eights. Like I'm in trouble. And everybody's asking me, well, why are the greens so slow? I'm like, well, I'm actually mowing grass at 145. I shouldn't be. I said, the weather is, it's playing tricks on us. I said, there's more cold weather coming. Don't get fooled. I said, the worst thing I can do is go and mow it down and act like it's summertime. And next thing you know, it's going to get 20 degrees out here and we're going to lose grass. So, you got to have to bear with me of what's going on. I know it's not what we normally have, but what I'm dealing with right now is not normal either. So we're just kind of rolling with the punches.
How long did it take you to build that trust with your owner to get to the point where he just says, I know you've got it covered. Just take care of it?
It was probably 4 years, 4 or 5 years. I went into a meeting. It was him and I think a couple of his sons, and then they owned a large corporation on the side. That's the side that made money for us. So, they were having a normal meeting or whatever, and we talked about overseed. We kept talking about overseed, and I had asked them. I said, "Look, we've overseeded." And I said, this is long before I got here, but we had overseeded a lot of years in a row. I said, can we take 1 year off? I said, I just want 1 year and, let me clean the place up. I said, it'll be a better product, it'll be a better stand Bermuda. It'll be better to overseed into it, because when I worked at the Cliffs, we overseeded there. I worked at Quail Hollow. We overseeded there, overseeded tees at Providence where I was before. So overseeding has always been a part of, who I am and where I come from. So it wasn't a big deal, but taking a year off every now and then was always a good thing. And, they bought into it and believed in what, I said, okay. So we had a great transition. Everything was a really good year. So we come back to it the next year. And so we're all right, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about whether we're going to oversee it again. And everybody at the table had an opinion. And like I said, there was manufacturing people there. There was family members there. There was this and that. And everybody had an opinion, and I'm just sitting there just waiting on everybody to stop talking. And that's when he kind of looked at everybody and told them, in no uncertain terms, shut the hell up. Let's find out what Alex wants to do, because that's what we're going to do. So once he said that, I was like, I think I'm okay. I'm good.
Well, that communication is so important, especially around the golf course, all the different divisions. And then, we'll go back to your shop and talk about the communication there. How do you build that culture and keep everybody motivated throughout the season, especially when you do have stresses or events and things like that?
Yeah, to me, with my guys, with my two assistants, Jason and Jake, like it's easy. Like we talk on a daily basis, and we kind of know. And they know my quirks or the way I am about certain things. It's the way I was kind of brought up in the business. Once I tell them that, XYZ needs to be done or whatever it is, once it leaves my mouth and it's a thought, I don't think about it anymore, because at that point in my mind, it's done. I'm moving on to the next thing. Now it's their job to make sure that the job gets done. And then they're the ones that are, communicating with the crew. The guys on the crew, I've always had they feel like they can come in and talk to me at any time, the old open door policy or whatever. I have a good relationship with the guys. As far as I feel like they can come to me with whatever, very understanding of, with life and things that go on. So, I think guys can come talk to me about anything. And if there's ever any issue or whatever, that goes on with anybody, then I don't necessarily pull people in my office and like sit them down and like talk to them or yell at them or whatever the case may be. Because as soon as I pull somebody in, that kind of starts the little rumor mill going through the crew about Alex is mad at this guy or he's getting on this guy or whatever the case may be. So I will find the time to do it when they're by themselves on the golf course. And it's basically just two men talking on the golf course, because anybody can see it. Alex is just talking to him. Well, no, I'm actually I'm doing what I need to do. I'm either critiquing or handling a problem or addressing something, but it's done on the golf course to where nobody is the wiser. So I don't show anybody up. I don't, treat anybody like, I was out to get them or any way, shape, or form. It's just something that, I always kind of go back to when I was coached or when I actually do coach. It's, handling problems on a one-on-one basis. It's almost like putting your arm around a guy and like just, talking to him it doesn't go to that extreme, but it's almost similar to very, it's a coaching situation, and that's kind of how I treat it.
How do you go about empowering your assistants to make decisions? And what is the decision-making process like within your team?
Well, not only assistants, I actually empower my guys to make decisions too. It starts with me, with the guys on the crew, especially when it comes to projects. Now, mowing and doing daily maintenance stuff, we've all kind of figured out how to do it. But when it comes to projects, if I tell you a specific way I want it done, I really don't care how it's done as long as the job gets done. And I tell them that. So, if you have a better way of doing something, then that's fine with me. Let's figure it out. But if I know a certain job needs to be done a certain way with certain tools, I will tell you that because I've seen it. And but by allowing them to make decisions on what they need to do as far as like a project is concerned, it actually, that seems to go a little bit better. I'm always open to it. And, I have in the past of knowing that what they're going to do is not going to work, but I've allowed them to do it knowing it's really not going to mess anything up, but they're going to learn something in the process. So, and in the communication back and forth. And so they'll ask me, so what do you think, or what's the best way of doing it or whatever? And I'll tell them. But as far as assistance concerned, I go back to, I want them to make decisions, and especially I want them to feel free to make decisions when I'm not here, because when I'm not here, the decision that they make is the decision. And I got that from a previous supervisor. He told me a long time ago, I don't care what the decision is. If I don't like the decision, we will talk about it afterward. But when you make it, that's the decision going forward, in that situation. And then if it ever comes up again, we'll talk about it and we'll do it, maybe do it differently. But, as the person here, or as the person that's, in the feet to the fire, like, you're the one who needs to make the decision, and I'm fine with it. I want them to do that. And I stand behind them when they do it, no matter what it is. So
that's a nice segue there for us, Alex. I think because you mentioned, when you're not there, those guys, should be able to handle it. And obviously, you're heavily involved there with the Carolinas chapter. Talk a little bit about why you got involved in the association, volunteering with the association, and kind of your role within the Carolinas chapter.
See, 2016 is when I got involved. I was actually I was nominated in 15, and they had actually decided it was two guys nominated. One guy was in an area that we didn't have any representation whatsoever. So they came to me and said, "Hey, we really like you. We want we want you to stay involved, but we're actually going to go with this guy." I said, "That's fine. I completely understand. I'm just here to help." And that person ended up actually taking a job out of state, so he had to resign. So I basically took over the spot anyway. So all the superintendents I've worked for in the past have allowed me to go, and this started early. It allowed me to go to local events and meeting guys. And I always felt like no matter if it was just an education event or a golf event or whatever it was, me being able to get out and meet and talk to people, I always seemed like I learned something every time I went. Even if it was just to play golf, talking with 3 other guys, there was something I was going to pull from that day. And the way I looked at it is the association, or the profession and the association, has done so much for me and my family. Allowed me to have a job, allowed me to, keep me educated, and, make me better at what I do. That I wanted to give back. And that's something that I've always, no matter what it is, it's just, I've always wanted to give back and make sure that I'm doing my part. So that's kind of how it got started for me. Back, I said 2016 is when I got appointed to the board, and then I've been all the way through. So I'm currently the president of the Carolinas Superintendent Association. I think I have 50 days left, 52 days or something.
Who's counting?
Look at the calendar.
I'm not counting.
Tim's probably reminding you of that, isn't he?
I've already got a text this morning. I'm sure Tim tell me what's going on. So, but it's just something that I believe in, and I get last year with the hurricane, it was truly, truly amazing to see our industry, our profession, our association just come together like it did, and it just proved to me I'm at the right place at the right time, doing what I need to be doing, need to be involved, because the impact that we had, and how we were able to help people during a time that there wasn't a lot of people, there wasn't a lot of help out there. It's just rewarding. So.
People talk a lot about the GCSAA conference. It's obviously a massive one that people come from all over the world, but the Carolina show is also a very, very big one. And you guys are ramping up. I think it's 6 weeks from now. So talk to us a
Yeah.
little bit about the show and some of the plans and what people can expect.
Yeah, well, it's the plans actually start back. Obviously, it starts back in February, or in the February, when we have a conference and show meeting. We kind of get all of our education. The association itself is based off of education. It's educating superintendents. So that is the biggest component of what we do for that show. Everything is centered around education. We have 32. Pretty sure we have 32 classes this year. And it's everything from assistance classes to, I think there's a couple of mechanics classes. There's definitely superintendent's classes, like agronomy classes, budget class. It's just all a gamut of all kinds of different things we want to cover, and we want to be there for everybody. The fact that it's in Myrtle Beach, at the time of year that it's at, it's kind of end of everybody's season. We're down there for a couple, 3 days at least. Guys will turn it into a little bit of a golf trip or whatever. So they'll go down early, they'll stay late or whatever. For us, it's just putting on the best event we can possibly put down, and just give the opportunity to people to come down. And we've been very, very fortunate to vendors have bought in. Our trade show floor this year is it will be the biggest we've ever had. With over 400 booth space sold. I can't remember exactly how many companies, but it's a lot. And like I said, and it's just, getting together and, camaraderie and meeting the guys, seeing the guys. And, there are guys that I see once a year. I see them in Myrtle Beach. And, when we leave, it's like, hey, see you next year, because we all know we're going to be back there doing the same thing over and over again. But that's, a testament to Tim and Angie and Melissa and Kim in the office, and the amount of work that goes into putting this thing on. I think people will, if you've never been to the show, our show, you will actually walk in, you're going to be shocked at how big it actually is. And just because, it's technically a regional show, or whatever you want to call it. But when you put two states together like the Carolinas, and how big golf is in both states, it's no wonder that, it is big as what it is.
I did a little scouting trip over the weekend, Alex, and I can tell you they still sell cold beer down in Myrtle Beach. So we're
good.
safe. We're safe, and we left a little bit there for you guys for November. But
that's definitely, hey, we're coming, and we've added good problem to have. But with the last few years, we've had like 370 golfers playing our golf tournament. Well. Wow. We've decided to add a fourth. So we did 370 over 3 golf courses. We've actually added a 4th golf course. So, we've making sure everybody understands, hey, we need to have enough beer for all these guys coming to town. And, hopefully we'll have 80 to 100 players each day. So the pace of play is a little bit better, and, everybody enjoys it a little bit more. But Tim always says it, and, he starts everything out with good problem to have. I mean, because, there are things and challenges that we have, or they have, that we've got to figure out how to accommodate all these people.
Yeah, that was always my first comment whenever I was running events. Like, look, if we run out of beer, that's a surefire way to make sure we never come back. So just make sure you're fully loaded. But so within your role, you've gotten to have a peek behind the curtain. Not too many people understand what happens and everything it takes to keep an association like the Carolinas chapter going forward. Talk about, the stuff that Tim and Angie and you guys as a board, talk about some of the things you guys do in order to keep that train moving.
I guess the thing for me, or the one thing for me is, I always tell, yes, Tim, Angie, Melissa, Kim, yes, they work for us, but it's theirs. Like, you talk about empowering employees, you empower the people to do their job. That we all have full-time jobs. I've got 14, 15 guys, $1 million, I've got all my stuff I have to worry about. I don't need another job to worry about, worry about the Carolinas. So that's where, empowering Tim and in the office to make sure that to do exactly what needs to be done. And sometimes it's like, sit back and let them work and let them do their job and, just be there for support for them, and whatever the case is. But it's we come to planning the event. We've changed a few things this year, as far as like how the signups are concerned, and the badges. We're not going to mail out badges this year. We're actually going to print them on site, and these are all ideas and things that that Angie and Melissa and Kim they wanted, and they came to us and asked us, and they said, well, and we told them, if it makes it easier on you guys, absolutely, that's what we want. We don't want this to bog you guys down and getting things done. We want to have a great event, and even if there's headaches or some hoops to jump through or whatever, we will figure it out on when it comes to it. But it's like I said, we start planning in March, and everything kind of gets locked up, done by, June, July, and then everything opens up in August, September. Like it's really a full-time year-round thing where we have to do it because we have so many people and so many vendors, and, getting all the, the professors. And I'm actually teaching a class this year. They actually talked me into teaching, which I've never done. I've done it in the past, like as far as the conference comes to you, but we're actually doing it. We're kind of revisiting that topic. An old assistant of mine who is now a superintendent, and then Tim Carpenter at Gaston Country Club and his assistant. And basically, we're just going to talk about superintendents and assistants roles and communications and how we work together. Like I said, Richard Brown, he's at Florence Country Club. We did this back, conference comes to you, when he was my assistant. Well, now he's a superintendent on his own. So it's going to add a whole nother level to the class. But looking forward to it.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm getting goosebumps just hearing about this.
No, dude, I can't wait. I've been down there 2 or 3 times over the last couple of years, Alex, and you guys put on one heck of a show. And I think the camaraderie down there is very unique, especially for a regional event. You get so much support. Like you said, your vendor support is amazing, but then also your superintendent support. And that, you mentioned just the size of this thing with just the 2 states, the Carolinas, but you guys had attendees from, I think, over or nearly 30 states last year. And I can tell you, being here in Ohio, I know plenty of guys that just make their way down there for that show. So what do you think it is that makes that show so well supported by the community?
Well, I think, like you said, it's just it's a good group of guys, good group of people. We're inviting, we're just inviting. We want people to come down. We want people to support. But having the two universities in the 2 states, Clemson and North Carolina State, and making sure they're heavily involved in the education that we do. And then we also we branch out and we go other regions of the country to make sure that everything is done. So if somebody from, Midwest can look at it, or somebody, Florida or wherever, they can look at our education slate and say, you know what, there's a class there that I could take. So that's what kind of intrigues them. The second part is, it's cheaper. It's cheaper to go to our show than it is the big show. And we all understand that. And there's a lot of guys, you can get to you can drive to Myrtle Beach and you don't have to fly. It's kind of like an East Coast or an Orlando big show for us. Most guys in the Carolinas, when we go to Orlando, we drive, even though it's, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, we all just drive. So that's a part of it as well. And then, like I said, we usually have pretty decent weather. We play a little bit of golf, like I said, and there's some other things, other events and other things that go on that, it's just a good place to be in, good time of year. And, Myrtle Beach understands the people that work in Myrtle Beach, especially during that time, they understand what butters the bread. It is the golfers, and it's us, us coming down there. and it's always funny that there are golf trips and people, and we'll be around, and I'll be eating breakfast one morning in a local restaurant, and there'll be a golfing group coming in, and they look at us and like just having conversations with those guys, and they're like, well, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a golf course superintendent." And they're like, "Why are you in a jacket and a crest and why do you look the way you look?" And I'm like, "Well, I am a professional." So, and this is the way professionals dress when we go to certain places, and it blows them away that we actually have an event like we do. And I was like, this is just so you guys can have the golf courses to play on every single day, and it blows them away. Like it's the reception that we get from these guys are like, wow, and it's the same guys every year, so they see us and they go, oh, hey, you guys are back. I'm like, yeah, so are you. So, but.
I'm glad you mentioned the education and kind of some of the regions that you guys support. Because again, I know a lot of guys up here who are on kind of like the northern part of the transition zone that are managing bent grass, and you guys have a lot of stuff for those. Because even in, especially in North Carolina, you do have a handful, decent amount of courses managing bent grass in that transition zone. So there's a lot of stuff for everybody to come in and learn about. So it's
Yeah,
a exciting
I
show.
tell you what, we'll definitely get in trouble if we don't have enough bent grass. Our North Carolina bent grass guys usually raise cane when we don't have enough, or we'll end up having the same class and we'll just kind of repeat it year after year. And they're like, "Hey, you got to come up with something new. We're ready. We're like, now let's go. So, it's just kind of a thing that we try to make sure that we're staying on top of. And we always take, we ask questions. We ask our members, what do you want to see, or what problems are you having? And that's why, and honestly, that's how us using all the professors and researchers from North Carolina State and Clemson, asking them, what are you guys seeing in your research, or at the guys sending samples in, what's the problem, what's the issues, what do you guys need to be talking about? And it's another good way of actually showing all the money that we're raising for rounds for research, and it's how we can kind of say, hey, the money that we're raising here is actually going to, this research, talk about this research and where we are and what the future holds and, where we're going to be. So it's just a win-win for all of us. So
I'm glad you mentioned that as well. Talk about how much money you guys raise for Rounds for Research and how on earth do you guys, I mean, obviously, I know Rounds for Research started there in the Carolinas chapter, so you guys
yeah.
had a little bit of a head start, but what you guys do with that program is off the charts.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, yeah, you said it, you're right. It was ours. It was something that we came up with. It was an idea a long time ago. How do we raise money, or how do we continue to do this? And so I guess for us going forward, it's just buy-in. It's just buy-in from all the guys on the board. And I will tell you, it is, we break it down. Everybody on the board gets a list of, all the calls that we need to make. And like, I am not a cold call salesman. Like, I have figured that out, and I appreciate the Carolinas for making me aware of that. I mean, even calling somebody, like it's kind of awkward. Like, it's still, hey, you kind of, backdoor the whole conversation. I don't want to, but it's just one of those things. Like, we all have, like I said, we all have a list to call, and we all make sure that we call, whether it's a phone call, it's a text, it's an email, it's whatever. We just try to communicate as much as we can with our members and understand. And then two, I think, when we were at Pinehurst this past spring, and we could show how much money we actually donated, it's an eye-opening thing. It's like, wow, we just funded how much money? Like, and this comes from us. Like, this is all things that we've done over the past 3 years to raise this money, so we're able to fund these research projects. And these research projects would not be done. I would say some of them would get done, but not all of them. So, we're out there, we're helping ourselves, solve a problem, worked for a guy in the past that, don't give me a problem without a solution. Well, this was a problem, and we came up with a solution. So, if every other chapter or every other thing, if they had the buy-in that the 13 guys that I serve with, if they had that same amount of buy-in, that'd be the exact same thing. It is a conscious effort by every single one of us to make sure we make our phone calls and make our connections. And this year we're actually kind of trying to move the timetable up. So we're going to be talking to guys, here in a couple of weeks. We'll be in end of October. We'll be at Grandfather Mountain for our fall mountain meeting. So if there's somebody on our list, we see them personally, we can make that personal connection. And the same thing at the show. We're actually talking to them face to face. Because like you said, it's always hard to say no to somebody face to face, but I can dodge a phone call, or I can dodge an email, or I can dodge a text message, because they all know the time of year. Oh, it's rounds of research time. Alex is calling me again, because I looked at my couple text messages from the year before. The last time I talked to the guy was rounds of research the year before. So that kind of made me feel bad. I was like, oh, okay, I got to do a better job than that. But yeah, it's just like I said, it's just buy-in from all parties involved.
Yeah. Well, I was just that grandfather last week too. Brinkley's got that place ready to go for you too. You guys are going to have a blast up there, man.
Well, like we were supposed to be there last year for Pete's last year, and that's the reason why we had it. Because the membership invited us to be there for so it was going to be before he retired, and then the hurricane hit, and so we couldn't do it. But we're very fortunate they invited us back. They wanted us to come back this year, because we were actually planning on not going up there. Like, they're not going to have us. Pete's retired. But they were like, no, you guys are coming back. So it was like, it's very nice of the membership to be able to do that for us.
That's huge. Well, Alex, this has been really good, man. Like a lot of good stuff here packed into the hour. We certainly want to be sensitive of your time. You got to get back to work. We're going to skip the lightning round today, unless you're dying to get involved in that. But the last one from my side, I'll let Brian ask one more, and then we'll turn the floor over to you. But for me, I've just been dying to hear this story about the PJs on the tee.
Well, okay, so I always ask for a crazy or a funny story or whatever that happened on a golf course. So this was, I think I was at Providence Country Club, and it was early on, like me being I was a second assistant. It was early on a Sunday morning. I'm out just I got there early. I'm trying to run through the golf course to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be, and I'm gonna meet the guys back at the shop to get everything going. So it's still dark outside. So it's on 17, and the way it goes, you kind of hit this bridge and go across the bridge, and the 17 tee box right in front of it. And there is a member. I recognize him, and he's standing, but he looks like he just woke up, and like it's weird, like he is literally in pajamas. And I hit the bridge, and he hears me, and I scare him. I scare the crap out of him. And then he starts pointing down the fairway. Well, I look down the fairway, and there is a guy that's 150, 200 yards away, dressed in all black. I could barely see him because it's dark, but I could see him, like you can make the silhouette out of him. And he's wearing a ski mask and has this long knife, and I can tell it's big. It looked almost, I guess, I don't know if it was a knife or a machete, but it looked like a knife. But and I asked the member, he said, that guy just tried to break into my house. And I said, well, did you call the police? And he said, no, I ran after him. And I said, well, that wasn't very smart. So I got on the phone, called 911. So the guy he made his way down the hole, through the neighborhood, and he was actually trying to break into another house.
Oh my God.
Well, come to find out that was like grandma or grandpa's house that he was trying to hide from people once he figured out he knew what was going on. Ooh. So it was a very, very awkward, strange situation. You got, members, and I saw the cops show up, and I went back to work. I got nothing to do with this. I'm out of here. So, yeah, it was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. And I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to have to deal with that again. So.
Yikes. That's scary. Well, we know you got to get back out to do your final run before your shotgun. But before we let you get back to work, we'd like to leave the little bit of time just for you to talk about anything you want to talk about, anything you want to bring up and put out there for the audience.
Well, if hopefully, I guess this is going to come out before our show. I guess the only thing I would say is, I'm inviting everybody to the show this year. Please come down, check out our education slate, check out, the golf courses. We actually do have a, skeet shooting event as well. If that's more along, more along your lines, we do some different things, and we have education on those days as well. So, yeah, just look at what we got going on. Call me, call anybody that's ever been, talk to you guys, like, just, find out. I think it's well worth your while to come down and see us. We would love to have you.
Yeah, it's a great event. Again, coming from experience, I had an absolute blast down there. Adam and I are going to be there this year, doing some stuff at the main stage. So we're really looking forward to it. It's definitely worth your time, and like you said, much less expensive to get there to than most of the national shows. But really, again, really worth everyone's time to go and be a part of that show. So,
Cool.
Alex, can't thank you enough for your time and coming on here and sharing your story with us. And we look forward to seeing you here in a couple of weeks, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Alex. This was awesome.
All right.
All right, man. Good luck with your day.
All right. Thank you.
All right, man.
take
We'll
care.
see you.
Bye-bye. Oh,
We still got you live here, buddy.
oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Did you hear my knee pop?
I
That
did.
was
I
your
heard
knee.
you go, oh, fuck.
Yeah, that was my knee. I was like, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. We get all sorts of exits on this thing, man. It's always entertaining.
Yeah, no, you can delete that or do whatever.
Yeah. Nothing's
For
live.
sure.
You're good. You're good.
First star goes to him for a great interview. Second star goes to you for asking some awesome questions, leading that in a great place. And then I'll take third star for hitting the record button at the right time today.
Yeah, no, that was great. He's I've met Alex a couple times at the show and at the Carolinas show and all that. Just a great guy, and that what the Carolinas does is really, really special, and it all starts, I think with that team there, the executive leadership at that chapter. I mean, the board's phenomenal, but Tim is the ultimate cheerleader for that association. Cheerleader and head coach. I mean, he just keeps everything running, and then the rest of the team that they've got there at the chapter, they're so good at communicating everything that's going on. They've got all the details buttoned up at that show. They put on an incredible event. What they do with rounds for research is unbelievable. I mean, I can't remember how many hundreds of thousands of dollars they raised for that, but I mean, it's incredible the money that they bring in and the support they get from their chapters. Just outstanding organization.
I remember my first show hearing about the Carolinas room, and you're like, who are these guys? Why are they so special? Why is it such a big room? Why are all these guys going? And it's just one of the biggest chapters that has so much support, so many golf courses, so many people working there, and they do so
Yeah.
much to, kind of have that regional bond, and then also bring it to the big show. So it makes a lot of sense now why they're so involved, and I'm so excited to get down there. I've never been to Myrtle. The fact that they're just handing over the mics and letting us run the main stage it's a bit of a gamble on their part, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It just adds that new element to the show, and
Yeah.
be great to meet some people, have some fun. We'll have some interviews. We're planning a few different things. Don't want to give too much away right now, but we haven't done a live show before and haven't done something like that. So it's a great first one for us. And anybody that can make it down, we'd love to meet as many people as we can and get to interact with you. We're going to record some stuff for the show, and maybe to even do a live recording of a full episode too. So should be fun.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a blast, and the community and the people that come to this event, it truly is special. They are, especially from a regional standpoint, it's by far, I think, the biggest show for our industry that's out there. I mean, sold out booths, or sold out trade show floor. So, 400 some booths, I think you said, with I don't know how many vendors. But then just, the number of people that come in, obviously the show itself is fantastic. The education's great. The trade show floor is great. They do some really cool things to encourage flow around the entire space, whether I think it's the 27 hole challenge, give money away, contests and stuff like that. It's really cool. But then what's really fun, and it's the same at the national show and other regional events. I mean, the after hours stuff there is fantastic.
Hmm.
All sorts of evening functions, whether it's public stuff or, companies hosting different events, or heck, even coming in. Like I used to go in on Sunday night, and you'd walk into a restroom or a restaurant right down there on the Strand, and you'd see 100 superintendents in there hanging out, sitting by the bar, you know, having some beers, trading conversations. And it is. It's just a lot of fun. And like Alex said, you're at Myrtle Beach. The weather's usually pretty good. Their Monday golf outing is phenomenal. The Toro distributor down there supports that big time. So, very similar to what they do at the national event.
Hmm.
And just an absolute blast, different formats, great golf courses. I think last time I was down there, they played, I think it was True Blue, Caledonia, and Waukesha. I'm not sure how you say it. But just really fun golf courses. Again, get to interact with a ton of different people, and the education pertains to everybody. They've got cool season, warm season, you name it. It's really good. So yeah, sounds like this is not a paid promotion. This is not a paid promotion, everyone.
No, not at all.
We're excited. We're going down there. I reached out to Tim, just asked, hey, would you want us to be involved in any way, shape, or form? It's like, yeah, this is awesome. Let's do it. So yeah, we're gonna connect with them and do some fun things down at their show, because I'm a firm believer in that show. And they've supported me from the very beginning. They support the industry. They get back to the industry. And when I was launching Superintendent Network, Tim was one of the first guys to say, "Hey, man, I love what you're doing. How can I help you?" And they supported me financially, and other support. Came out to my very first event that I had down at San Diego, and Tim does a great job of rallying the troops and supporting other organizations within the industry as well. So just a really, really cool group.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking
Yep.
forward to it. It's kind of sucks we're not going to be there for the golf. We're both coming in
Yeah.
late Monday, but we'll be there for the 2 days of trade show and some after hour stuff. I saw yesterday on social media they're actually having like an assistants event, so all the assistants can go out to an event one night and meet each other and trade stories and stuff like that. So I might try and get into that one, being an assistant myself,
Yeah.
and get into that one, see all the guys and girls. I think that'd be fun. My
Well,
wife's also coming down too. We don't travel too much together, but she took the few
can't
days off,
wait.
so we're heading down together. Yeah, kids are going to the grandparents for a few days. It'll be fun.
That's gonna be awesome. It'll be the first time I get to meet her.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. She's looking forward to it. She told me as soon as we found out we were going, she's like, "Well, Myrtle Beach is like bucket list for me." And I was like, "Well, it's
I think
November."
that's hilarious.
So like
The
we won't
dirty
be down
Myrtle.
there. We won't be down there in Speedos, but
Nope, nope. She won't get a whole lot of beach time. I doubt, she might dip her toes in the ocean there a little bit, but it might be a little chilly for
yeah,
some swimming
it'll be
there.
quiet down there. But
Yeah. The other thing he didn't mention, we haven't really talked about either, is they do a lot of good stuff for equipment managers too. They've got a lot of great sessions for equipment managers. A lot of superintendents will end up bringing their EM to this as well. I'm pretty sure they've got like a whole track of for equipment managers, and I'm pretty sure one of our former guests, Mike Rollins, is going to be down there doing his Cut Line is King, which is always a sold out event. Does a great job talking about grinding and reel setup and bed knife setup and all that fun stuff. So yeah, great opportunity. There's not a ton of education out there for equipment managers, but this is a really good one for that.
he's not going to be dressed up, is he?
I think he has before. I think he
Yes.
has. I'm pretty sure D Wayne has made an appearance at this show before, whether it's for the evening functions or for education itself.
Yeah.
There may be a D Wayne sighting. I don't
What did
know,
he
man.
say? The mullet's always in the back seat just in case.
He always carries it with him. Always carries it with him. It's you never know when D Wayne makes an appearance.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now it's gonna be fun. I can't wait. We've got a game plan what we're gonna end up doing, but whatever it is, it's gonna be fun. I know
Hmm.
that. Yeah, yeah. All right, man.
Okay, have a good one.
Catch it. See ya.
Water. It's the lifeblood of the game, the unseen force that transforms fairways into carpets, greens into glass, and roughs into playable ground. But water alone isn't enough. It takes precision, control, and innovation to deliver it exactly where it belongs. That's where Toro Irrigation stands apart. From cutting-edge sprinklers to intelligent control systems, Toro brings superintendents the power to master water like never before. Reliable, efficient, unmatched. Because every drop matters, every swing deserves perfection, and every course deserves the best. Toro. Always solving. Always evolving.